Hello and welcome back to another quick fix. Today we're going to be testing and replacing a battery in a PS3 Dual Shock 3 controller. I've already tried charging this unit for a bit, but it never holds a charge for more than a few seconds after being unplugged. This is a fairly common problem and it is relatively straightforward for the fix, but I'll give you some tips along the way to make sure your swap goes as smoothly as possible. So let's get into it. First off, you're going to need some tools. A small Phillips screwdriver, a pry tool that's preferably plastic so it doesn't damage the housing, a tool to remove the battery like a pair of tweezers, a small pliers, or a very small flathead screwdriver, a multimeter if you plan on testing your battery, and of course, a brand new battery. Start by flipping over your controller and removing the 5 Phillips screws that are on the back and set them off to the side for now. Next, you want to pry at the seams of the rear housing to pull it away from the front half. This can sometimes be a little bit difficult if the battery gets stuck or the L2 or R2 buttons are wedged in place. You can always press pretty hard on both of these buttons to pop them out completely, since these will be put back in later anyway. Find the battery connector on the left side of the board and pry it out of place. This is where a pair of tweezers or a small screwdriver may help you to wiggle it loose. These connectors can be very tight, and if you pull on the battery itself without the connector being loose first, this can happen. The wires are not secured in as tight as the connector, and they can be ripped out pretty easily. Once you have the connector free though, you should be able to pull it out for testing. Here's a comparison of both of the batteries. Both have a very similar form factor, but one of the main differences is the newer replacement I'm using doesn't have the little clips on it to hold it in place inside the front housing. If you're worried about it moving around after install, you could always put some double-sided thick foam tape on the rear of the battery to hold it in place. Unfortunately, regular double-sided tape does not work because it's a little bit too thin for this. But to test your battery, switch the multimeter over to the DC voltage and touch the probes to the black and red wire ends inside the connector. This older battery shows 0 volts, which is probably why it's no longer charging. It should be around 3.7 volts fully charged. And this new battery is at 3.84 volts just for reference. With the label face up and the wires on the lower left side, insert the new battery into the connector. The wires are a little bit longer and will get in the way of closing the housing properly, so twist the battery so the wires bundle together and they move themselves out of the way. Be sure not to twist too far though, just twist them enough in order to keep them tidy. If you didn't already do this before, pop the L2 and R2 button ends out of place from the rear housing. These need to be reattached, kind of like the ladder parts from a Lego kit, to the clips on the front of the housing. When reattaching them, make sure to pull down on the small spring leg on the right side of the button and place it on the small landing so it doesn't pop loose. This ensures that it springs back when pressed after the controller is all closed up. Do the same thing with the other side, and now you can place the rear housing back on. I like to hold the battery in place with one hand while I close the housing with the other. If you encounter some tough resistance when closing the shells, then a wire might be out of place, so double check to make sure nothing is being pinched inside. If not, it should snap together and you can add back in the 5 screws that you removed in the beginning. Now that it's all back together, it's time to go test it out, since I'm sure your PlayStation just kicked on from pressing the center button like mine just did. I hope this video helped you fix your issue, and if you're looking for more videos on how to fix other game hardware, be sure to check out my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next fix.